The metal floor was cold beneath Taesung's knees. He kept his head down, eyes fixed on the dark stains that covered the deck. Blood. Some of it was days old. Some of it was fresh from this morning's beating. The air smelled of unwashed bodies, fear, and the strange chemical scent that all alien ships seemed to carry. Around him, 200 humans crowded into the cargo hold. They slept on thin mats, shared water from a single dispenser, and tried not to think about what came next. 3 years. That's how long they had been prisoners. 3 years since Earth fell. Taesung moved slowly, carefully picking up his daily ration pack. His hands didn't shake. His face showed nothing. He was just another broken slave, another human who had given up fighting. That's what the guards thought. That's what he wanted them to think. Taesung. The voice was quiet. A young woman sat beside him, her dark hair tied back with a strip of torn cloth. Hana. She was one of the few who still smiled sometimes, even in this place. He nodded at her but said nothing. Words were dangerous. Words drew attention. "You should eat more," she said, looking at his thin frame. "You're getting worse." Taesung opened the ration pack and took a small bite. The food tasted like metal and chemicals, but it kept them alive. That was all that mattered to the aliens. Keep the slaves alive long enough to sell them. Across the hold, an older man named Ji-won was distributing extra water to the sick. He had been a soldier once back on Earth. Now he used that discipline to keep the humans organized, to keep them from falling apart completely. He caught Taesung's eye and gave a small nod. Taesung returned it. The door to the hold opened with a hiss. Everyone went silent. 3 guards entered, their scales gleaming under the harsh lights. They were Vorath's crew. Reptilian creatures, twice as tall as any human, with claws that could tear through flesh like paper. "Stand!" One of them growled in broken human speech. "Inspection." The humans rose slowly. The old, the injured, the children. They formed lines like they had been taught. Those who moved too slowly got hit. Those who looked the guards in the eye got hit harder. Vorath himself followed behind his guards. He was the overseer, the one who decided who lived and who died. He walked between the lines, looking at each human like they were animals at a market. He stopped in front of a teenage boy, Minho. The boy was trembling, trying hard to look at the floor. "This one has marks," Vorath said, pointing at bruises on Minho's arms. "Damaged goods sell for less." "He fell," Ji-won said quickly. "Clumsy. Won't happen again." Vorath's head snapped toward Ji-won. For a moment, the hold was completely silent. Then the alien laughed, a horrible sound like rocks grinding together. "Old soldier thinks he's still in charge," Vorath said. He moved closer to Ji-won. "Maybe I should remind you what happens to humans who speak without permission." Taesung's hands clenched into fists. He forced them to relax. "Not yet. Not now." But Vorath didn't strike Ji-won. Instead, he turned to Hana. "This one, bring her forward." Hana's face went pale, but she stepped out of line. She kept her chin up, refusing to show fear. "Pretty," Vorath said, circling her. "The buyers at Korvax pay extra for the pretty ones. Maybe I should test the merchandise first." His claw reached toward her face. Taesung took half a step forward before stopping himself. His heart was pounding. His muscles were tense, ready. Every instinct screamed at him to move, to fight, to kill, but he stayed still. The time wasn't right. If he moved now, they would all die. Hana didn't flinch as the claw touched her cheek. "Do what you want," she said quietly. "I'm not afraid of you." Vorath stared at her. Then he laughed again and pushed her back into line. "Brave, stupid but brave. The miners will enjoy breaking that spirit." The inspection continued. The guards checked teeth, muscles, looked for signs of disease. They were evaluating their cargo, making sure the humans would sell well at the station. Taesung kept his head down, made himself invisible. He had practiced this for 3 years. When the guards finally left, the hold released a collective breath. Hana returned to her spot, shaking now that the danger had passed. Her friend Somin hugged her, whispering comfort. "That was close," Jiwan said softly, sitting down beside Taesung. "Too close." Taesung said nothing. He was watching the door, calculating. 3 guards plus Vorath, 4 targets. The door had a manual lock on the inside, which meant it could be sealed. The humans outnumbered the guards 40-1 in this hold alone, but the aliens were stronger, faster, and armed, and there were more of them throughout the ship. "Why do you do that?" Hana asked, sitting on his other side. "Do what?" "Watch. Count. I've seen you. Every time the guards come, you're measuring distances, counting seconds, like you're planning something." Taesung looked at her, really looked at her. She was young, maybe 22 or 23. She had been captured as a teenager, torn from whatever life she'd known, but her eyes were sharp. She noticed things. "I watch," he said carefully. "That's all. My father used to move like you," she continued. "Before the invasion, he was military, special forces. He had that same way of looking at everything like it was a battlefield." Taesung's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. That night the lights dimmed to simulate darkness. The humans settled into their sleeping areas, whispering quietly. Some cried, some prayed. Most just stared at nothing, lost in memories of a world that no longer existed. Taesung lay on his mat, eyes open. In the far corner of the hold, near the maintenance shaft, something moved. A small shape, not human. One of the other slaves from the lower levels. An insectoid creature, barely 3 feet tall. Kirill. He worked in maintenance, fixing things the guards were too important to bother with. Kirill was watching him. Taesung could feel the alien's eyes on him in the darkness. This wasn't the first time. For weeks now, the small alien had been observing him, studying him. It made Taesung uneasy. He closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but sleep was difficult. In his dreams, he was back on Earth, back in Seoul in the final days. Fire raining from the sky, buildings collapsing, screams echoing through streets. And his unit, fighting to the last man against an enemy they couldn't defeat. They had called him the Reaper in those days. The human who killed aliens with cold efficiency. The soldier who wouldn't stop couldn't be stopped. He had been a weapon, a monster that the Earth needed when everything was falling apart. But the Reaper had died in Seoul, buried under rubble and fire. Taesung had made sure of that. He had become someone else, someone quiet, someone who wouldn't draw attention, because the Reaper got people killed. Everyone around him died. His unit, his friends, everyone. Near morning, an alarm echoed through the ship. New prisoners were arriving. The guards herded them into the holds, shoving and hitting anyone who moved too slowly. Among them were fighters, Taesung could tell. Resistance members from some failed uprising. They had the look of soldiers, even beaten and bloody. One of them, an older man with gray hair, was thrown into their hold. He collapsed near Taesung, coughing blood. His eyes were glazed with pain, but they focused on Taesung's face. Recognition flickered there. The man reached out, grabbed Taesung's arm. His lips moved, forming a single word. A name. Reaper. Before he could say more, a guard's boot came down on his back. The man screamed, then went silent. Dead or unconscious, Taesung couldn't tell. But across the hold, Kirill had heard. The small alien's eyes went wide. He scuttled back into the shadows, but Taesung knew. The secret he had kept for 3 years was beginning to unravel. Hana was staring at him now, questions in her eyes. Jiwan too looked troubled, searching Taesung's face for answers. Taesung said nothing. He pulled the dead man's hand away gently and stood up. He walked to the water dispenser, his movements calm and controlled, but inside, everything was changing. The quiet was ending. The chains were still on, but they wouldn't be for much longer. The Reaper was waking up. Kirill couldn't stop thinking about the word. Reaper. He had heard it before, whispered in the maintenance tunnels where the other slaves worked. A legend, A nightmare. A human who killed like death itself. He moved through the narrow passages of the ship, his 6 legs carrying him silently. Being small had advantages on a slave ship. The guards barely noticed him. They saw a tiny insect worker, nothing important. They didn't know he could understand their language. They didn't know he remembered everything. In the data room where the ship's computers hummed and blinked, Kirill accessed the communication logs. He wasn't supposed to be here, but the door lock was broken. He had made sure of that weeks ago. Information was the only weapon a creature like him had. He searched for the word. Reaper. Human. Earth. Files appeared on the screen. Reports from 3 years ago when Earth was invaded. Battle reports. Loss reports, warnings. One file caught his attention. It was marked in red. A priority warning sent to all ships in the invasion fleet. Warning to all commanders. Human designation unknown. Call sign Reaper. Special Forces operator. Responsible for the deaths of over 300 soldiers in the Sol sector. Extremely dangerous. Uses guerrilla tactics, traps, and close combat. Shows no fear. Takes no prisoners. If encountered, do not engage alone. Use overwhelming force. Believed killed in final bombardment, but body not recovered. Kirill's antennae twitched. Body not recovered. That meant maybe not dead. He found more reports. Stories from soldiers who had survived encounters with the Reaper. They wrote about a human who moved like a shadow. Who killed entire squads before they knew he was there. Who turned their own weapons against them. Who wouldn't stop fighting even when wounded. Even when surrounded. The reports were full of fear. Aliens didn't scare easily, but this human had terrified them. Kirill thought about the quiet man in the slave hold, Tae-sung. Could that thin, silent prisoner really be the monster from these reports? He watched Tae-sung over the next few days. Really watched. The way Tae-sung moved was wrong for a broken slave. When the guards weren't looking, his movements were precise, controlled. He never wasted energy. He always knew where everyone was in the room. His eyes constantly tracked the guards, measuring, calculating. And then Kirill saw it. A guard was beating one of the human children for spilling water. The child was crying, begging. The other humans looked away. They had learned not to interfere, but Tae-sung's hands moved. Just for a second. His fingers shifted into a specific position, his weight balanced. Kirill recognized it. It was a combat stance, ready to strike, ready to kill. Then Tae-sung stopped himself, forced his hands to relax, but Kirill had seen it. The Reaper was still in there, hiding behind the mask of a slave. That night, Kirill made his decision. He waited until the hold was dark and quiet. Then he crawled through the ventilation shaft until he was above Tae-sung's sleeping area. He dropped down silently beside the human. Tae-sung's eyes opened immediately. His hand moved toward Kirill's throat, fast as a snake strike. Then he stopped, recognizing the small alien. "You move loud," Kirill whispered in broken human speech, for someone who's supposed to be quiet. Tae-sung sat up slowly. Around them, other humans were sleeping. Hana was nearby and Ji-won. They couldn't hear this conversation. "What do you want?" Tae-sung asked, his voice barely audible. "I know what you are," Kirill said. "I read the reports." The Reaper. Sol's ghost. The human who made the aliens afraid? Tae-sung's face showed nothing. "You're wrong. The dying man recognized you. He said your name." He was confused. Dying people say things. Kirill's mandibles clicked softly. "You lie." "I understand. Lying keeps you alive. But I think maybe lying is about to stop working." Tae-sung leaned closer. "Why do you care? You're not human." "No," Kirill agreed. "I am Shriven. My world fell 2 years before yours. The aliens killed my family, took my people as slaves. We are peaceful species. We have no weapons, no armies. We died very fast." He paused, his voice growing quieter. "But I remember my children's faces. I remember my world burning. And I want revenge, but I am small. I am weak. I cannot fight. So you want me to fight for you," Tae-sung said. "I want to help you fight for everyone," Kirill corrected. "The guards talk. I hear things. We arrive at Korvac station in 3 days. There they separate all slaves, sell to different buyers. Humans will go to mines, factories, pleasure houses. You will never see each other again." Tae-sung was silent for a long moment. His hands clenched, then relaxed. "I have access codes," Kirill continued. "I fix things on ship. I go everywhere. I know where armory is, where guard quarters are, where captain sleeps. I know ship better than anyone. And what do you want in return? I want my people freed too, Chiral said simply. There are 47 Shriven on this ship. We work in maintenance. We are ignored. But we can help. We can open doors, cut power, sabotage systems. We can be your eyes and ears. Taesung studied the small alien for a long time. If we try this and fail, everyone dies. Not just humans, everyone. We die anyway, Chiral said. Slow in mines and factories. Or fast, fighting. I choose fast. Why trust me? You don't know me. I read reports, Chiral said. The Reaper killed many aliens. But he saved humans. Protected civilians. The reports say you always put your people first, even when it meant danger for you. Taesung looked away. That person died in Seoul. No, Chiral said firmly. That person is sleeping, waiting. I saw you almost move today. Almost fight. The Reaper is still inside. You just need reason to wake up. Before Taesung could respond, Chiral scuttled back into the shadows. He disappeared into the ventilation shaft, leaving Taesung alone with his thoughts. The next morning, Vorath made an announcement. His voice echoed through every hold on the ship. In 3 days we reach Korvac Station, he said. You will be cleaned, processed, and sold. Any slave who causes trouble will be killed. Any slave who tries to escape will be tortured, then killed. Obey and you might survive. Fight and you will die screaming. The humans in the hold sat in silence after the announcement. Some were crying. Others just stared at nothing. 3 days until they lost each other forever. Hana sat beside Taesung. Korvax, she said quietly. I've heard stories. The mines there are death sentences. Humans don't last more than a year in those conditions. We won't go to the mines, Taesung said. She looked at him sharply. What? I said we won't go to the mines. Taesung, we don't have a choice. He turned to face her, and something in his eyes made her go still. They weren't the eyes of a broken slave anymore. They were cold, calculating, dangerous. We always have a choice, he said. Sometimes it's just a bad choice or a worse choice. But it's still a choice. Jiwan approached them, keeping his voice low. The new prisoners, the ones who came yesterday. I talked to them. They're resistance fighters from the Arcturus colonies. They were trying to raid an alien supply depot. Did they succeed? Taesung asked. No. But they damaged 3 transport ships before getting captured. Jiwan paused. One of them keeps asking about you. Wants to know if you're really here. Tell him no. He says he served under you. In Seoul. Says you saved his unit during the evacuation of the southern district. Taesung closed his eyes. The memories tried to surface. Fire, screaming, the smell of burning buildings, his unit fighting block by block as the aliens pushed forward. There had been civilians trapped in a building and his commander had said to leave them. But Taesung had gone back. He always went back. That was a different person, Taesung said. Was it? Jiwan asked. Because right now we need that person. We need someone who knows how to fight, someone who can lead. I got everyone around me killed. You got people out of Seoul alive, Jiwan corrected. I was there too, remember? Different sector, but I heard the stories. The Reaper who wouldn't abandon anyone, who held the line when everyone else ran. And then Seoul burned, Taesung said bitterly, and everyone died anyway. Hana touched his arm gently. But some lived. Because of you. Because someone fought long enough for them to escape. That night, Taesung couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of 200 humans breathing, crying, dreaming. In 3 days, they would be scattered across the galaxy. These people who had survived 3 years together would be torn apart, unless he did something. A small shape appeared beside him. Chiral again. I brought something, the alien whispered. He held out a small datapad. Schematics, ship layout, guard rotations. Everything you need, Taesung took the pad. His fingers moved across the screen, studying the information. His mind was already working, seeing possibilities. Weak points, attack vectors, escape routes. The tactical part of his brain, the part he had tried to bury, was waking up. 3 days, Chiral said. Is enough time? Taesung looked at the data. Then he looked around the hold at the sleeping humans. At Hana, who still had hope. At Jiwan, who kept them organized. At the children who had never known freedom. It has to be, Taesung said quietly. Because it's all the time we have. Kirill's antennae twitched in what might have been approval. Then the Reaper is awake? Taesung's jaw tightened. He thought about his old unit. his dead friends, the weight of all that death. But he also thought about 3 more days of slavery, followed by a lifetime in the mines. Maybe being the Reaper again would get people killed. But doing nothing definitely would. Tae-sung waited until the morning meal. The guards were lazy during feeding time, standing by the door while the slaves collected their rations. It was the best time to talk without being heard. He sat with Ji-won and Hana in the corner. The resistance fighter who recognized him, a man named Dae-hyun, joined them. He was thin and scarred, but his eyes were alert, intelligent. "It's really you," Dae-hyun said quietly, staring at Tae-sung. "I thought you were dead." "We all did." "I should be," Tae-sung said. "But we don't have time for reunions. I need to know what you can do. What you remember from your training." Dae-hyun's eyes widened. "You're planning something. 3 days until Korvax. If we're going to move, it has to be soon." Tae-sung looked at each of them. "But I need to know what we have. Ji-won, you were military. What branch?" "Army infantry officer. I led a company during the border conflicts before the invasion." "Good. You understand command structure." "Dae-hyun?" "Engineer Corps. I built bridges, fortifications. I know how systems work, how to break them, how to fix them." He paused. "I also know explosives." Tae-sung nodded. "That was useful." He turned to Hana. "What about you? What did you do before?" She hesitated. "I was just a student, university. I don't have any skills like them." "Everyone has skills," Tae-sung said. "Think, what did you study?" "Medicine. First-year medical student." She looked down at her hands. "I barely knew anything. I'm not a doctor. You know more than most people here. That makes you our medic." Tae-sung pulled out Kyrill's datapad, keeping it hidden under his arm. "Here's what we're dealing with." He showed them the ship layout. 5 main sections, cargo holds where the slaves were kept, engineering at the back, guard quarters in the middle, bridge at the front. And between everything, a network of maintenance tunnels. "How many guards total?" Ji-won asked. 43 aliens. Most of them are basic security. Strong but not smart. Then there's Vorath and his elite squad. 6 of them. They're the real problem. And at the front, Dae-hyun leaned closer. Captain and command crew. Another 10. But they're not fighters. They're pilots and technicians. Hana looked at the numbers. 43 guards against 200 humans. We have more people. They're stronger than us. Faster. Better armed, Tae-sung said. If we fight them straight, we lose. We need to be smart. What's the plan? Ji-won asked. Tae-sung was quiet for a moment. His finger traced paths on the datapad. We take the ship in stages. First, we secure the maintenance tunnels. That's our highway through the ship. The aliens are too big to use them effectively, but we can move through them. Kirill and his people, Dae-hyun said, understanding. They control the tunnels. Right. Second, we cut communications. No distress signals. We need to take this ship quietly, before anyone knows we're moving. Dae-hyun, can you do that? If I can get to the communication relay, yes. But it's near the guard quarters. We'll create a distraction. Third stage, we take the armory. Once we're armed, the odds change. Ji-won frowned. That's a lot of moving parts. A lot of things that can go wrong. They will go wrong, Tae-sung said bluntly. Plans never survive contact. But we need a framework. Something to build from. When do we start? Hana asked. Today. Now. Tae-sung looked at each of them. We have 3 days. I need you to identify people. Ji-won, find me anyone with military or police training. Anyone who can fight. Dae-hyun, I need people who understand technology, who can follow instructions about sabotage. Hana, find the medics, anyone with first aid knowledge. We're going to need them. They nodded and dispersed, moving casually through the hold. To the guards, it looked like normal slave behavior. But they were recruiting. Building an army. Tae-sung spent the day watching, planning. He memorized guard patterns, counted seconds between patrols, noted which aliens were alert and which were careless. Every detail mattered. That night, 23 humans gathered in the darkest corner of the hold. They sat close, pretending to sleep while Tae-sung briefed them in whispers. Some of you know who I am, he said. Some of you don't. It doesn't matter. What matters is this. In 3 days, we either take this ship or we die. There's no middle ground. If you're not ready for that, leave now. Nobody moved. Good. Here's what you need to understand. We're going to kill aliens. A lot of them. It won't be clean. It won't be easy. Some of us won't survive, he paused. But some of us will. And those who do will be free. A young woman named Yuna raised her hand. I was a nurse. I want to help. You'll work with Hana, set up a medical station. We'll need it. Others spoke up. A man named Kwan who had been a police officer. A woman named Yoonji who had served in the reserves. A teenager named Hyunwoo who knew computers. One by one, Taesung assigned them roles. Fighters, support, medics, scouts. We start training tomorrow, he said. The guards think we're weak, broken, let them keep thinking that. But between now and Korvax, you're going to remember how to fight. The next morning, everything changed. Vorath entered the hold with his elite squad. They moved with purpose, not their usual lazy patrol. Something was wrong. Inspection, Vorath announced. But this wasn't a normal inspection. The guards were searching for something specific. They went through the sleeping areas, overturning mats, checking hiding spots. They were looking for contraband, weapons, anything that shouldn't be there. Taesung's heart raced, but his face stayed calm. The datapad was hidden in the ventilation shaft. Kirill had taken it during the night. But if they searched too thoroughly, Vorath pointed at Selman, Hana's friend. Come here. Selman walked forward, trembling. Vorath grabbed her by the throat and lifted her off the ground. Someone has been accessing restricted areas, he growled. Someone has been stealing information. Tell me who, and I'll let you live. Selman choked, unable to speak. Her face turned red, then purple. Hana started forward, but Jiwon held her back. They couldn't afford to draw attention. Not now, Taesung's hands clenched. Every instinct screamed at him to move, to fight, to save her. But if he moved now, the whole plan collapsed. Everyone would die. He forced himself to stay still. Vorath threw Selman to the ground. No one talks? Fine. Then everyone suffers. He nodded to his guards. Take 10 slaves. Random selection. They'll stay in isolation until someone confesses. The guards moved through the hold, grabbing people. Old, young, it didn't matter. They took a mother holding a child. They took Kwan, one of Taesung's recruits. They took Minho, the brave teenager. Wait, a voice called out. It was one of the resistance fighters, a man Taesung barely knew. It was me, I did it. I accessed the computer. Vorath smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Really? And what did you find? Nothing. I was looking for information about my family. I thought maybe records. The alien's claw moved faster than anyone could react. It went through the man's chest, emerging from his back. The resistance fighter gasped once, then went limp. Vorath pulled his claw free and let the body fall. Liar. Humans can't access our systems. They don't have the codes. He looked around the hold. But someone does. Someone small. Someone who goes unnoticed. He was talking about Kirill. They knew about the Shriven. Find all the maintenance workers, Vorath ordered his guards. Bring them here. We'll execute them one by one until someone talks. Taesung stood up. He couldn't stop himself. Don't, they didn't do anything. Vorath's eyes fixed on him. The quiet one speaks, interesting. He walked closer. You're the one they call Taesung, yes? Always so obedient. Always so careful. The small ones just fix things, Taesung said, keeping his voice steady. They don't know anything about computers or codes. They're too simple. Perhaps Vorath studied him. Or perhaps you're protecting them. Perhaps you know more than you're saying. The hold was silent. Everyone watched. This was it. The moment that would decide everything. Then Kirill appeared. He crawled out of a ventilation shaft, placing himself between Vorath and the humans. I did it, Kirill said in his broken speech. I access computers. I look at things, but I don't find anything important. Just ship maps, old data. Nothing useful, Vorath laughed. And why would a Shriven worker need ship maps? Get lost. Tunnels are confusing. I study maps so I don't get lost. Kirill's voice was steady, calm. He was buying the lie with his life. Creative, Vorath said. But still theft. He raised his claw. If you kill maintenance workers, who fixes ship? Kirill asked quickly. Your guards don't fit in tunnels. Your technicians don't want to do small work. You need us, Vorath paused. It was true. The Shriven were the only ones who could access the narrow spaces, repair the small systems. Killing them would be inconvenient. You're lucky you're useful, Vorath said finally. He grabbed Kirill by one of his legs and lifted him up. But you need to learn your place. He threw the small alien against the wall. Hard. Kirill hit with a sickening crack and fell to the floor. He didn't move, Hana gasped. Several humans started forward, but Taesung held up his hand. Stop, don't move, Vorath turned to his guards. Increase patrols. Double the watch on the maintenance tunnels. And if any slave, human or otherwise, is caught where they shouldn't be, kill them. No warnings, the guards left. The humans rushed to Kirill. Yuna and Hana checked him carefully. He's alive, Yuna said, but his shell is cracked. He's hurt bad. They carried Kirill to the medical area, such as it was. Hana worked on him with the limited supplies they had. The plan changed. With doubled patrols and increased security, Tae-sung couldn't wait for the perfect moment. They had 1 day left before Korvac Station. 1 day before they lost everything. We move tonight, he told Jiwon and Daehyun. They were gathered in the corner during evening meal, speaking in whispers only they could hear. Tonight? Daehyun looked worried. We're not ready. Half the people you recruited have never fought before. Kirill is still hurt. The guards are everywhere. Which is exactly why we move now, Tae-sung said. They're expecting us to wait. To plan more. They think we're scared. So we hit them while they're confident. Jiwon nodded slowly. Speed over preparation. I've seen it work before. But it's risky. Everything's risky, Tae-sung said. But doing nothing is guaranteed death. He gathered his fighters. 23 humans, most of them scared but determined. He split them into 4 groups. Group 1, you're with Jiwon. Your job is to secure the armory. It's in Section C, 3rd door on the left. There will be 2 guards. You take them out quietly, get inside, and pass weapons to the rest of us. Jiwon's team nodded. There were 6 of them, including Kwan, the former police officer, and Yoonji from the reserves. Group 2, you're with Daehyun. You need to reach the communication room and shut down our ability to send distress signals. After that, you sabotage life support in the guard quarters. Nothing fatal, just uncomfortable enough to draw them out. Daehyun's team was smaller. 4 people, including Hyunwoo, the teenager who understood computers. Group 3, you're with Hana and Yuna. Set up a medical station in the maintenance tunnel junction near Section D. You'll treat wounded as they come. Stay hidden. Stay quiet. Hana looked terrified, but she nodded. Yuna squeezed her hand for support. Group 4 is with me. We're the distraction. We're going to draw the guards away from the armory and communication room. We're going to make them chase us through the maintenance tunnels. He paused. Some of us probably won't make it back. Understand? The 7 people in his group looked at each other. Then Minho, the brave teenager, spoke up. We understand. Good. Tae-sung looked at all of them. Remember, the aliens are stronger and faster. Don't fight them head-on unless you have no choice. Use surprise. Use numbers. Hit them when they're not looking. And if someone falls, keep moving. Don't stop. We can't save everyone, but we can save some. As darkness fell, Kirill appeared. He was still hurt, moving slowly, but he refused to stay down. Shriven are ready, he said. We will open doors, cut power at right moments, create confusion. We are part of this fight. You should rest, Tae-sung said. I rest when free. Or I rest when dead. No other choices. Kirill handed him a crude knife made from sharpened metal scraps. Best weapon I could make. Not much, but better than nothing. Tae-sung took it. The blade was rough, but sharp enough. Thank you, friend. Friend, Kirill repeated, his mandibles clicking softly. Yes, good word. At midnight, when most of the ship was quiet, they moved. Tae-sung's group went first. They crawled through the ventilation shafts, following paths Kirill had mapped. The metal was cold and narrow. Every sound seemed too loud in the confined space. They emerged in a corridor near the guard quarters. 2 aliens stood at their post, looking bored. They weren't expecting trouble from broken slaves. Tae-sung signaled his team. Wait. He studied the guards, timing their movements. When one turned away to check something on his communicator, Tae-sung moved. He was fast. 3 years of pretending to be slow made people forget that he knew how to move. The knife went into the first guard's throat before the alien could make a sound. Tae-sung caught the body as it fell. The second guard turned at the noise. Minho and another fighter jumped him, holding him down. They weren't strong enough to kill him quickly, and the alien started to roar. Tae-sung was there in a second. His knife found the soft spot under the alien's jaw. Silence. Drag them into the storage room, he whispered. Quick! While they hid the bodies, Kirill cut the power to this section. Lights flickered and died. Emergency lights kicked in, bathing everything in red. Alarms started blaring. The plan was in motion now. No turning back. Jiwon's team reached the armory in the confusion. 2 guards were there, but they were distracted by the alarms, trying to understand what was happening. Kwan moved first. tackling one of them. The guard was bigger, stronger, but Quan had surprise. Yunji grabbed a piece of pipe from the floor and swung it with all her strength. It connected with the alien's skull. Once, twice, 3 times before he stopped moving. The second guard shot Jiwan in the shoulder. The energy blast burned through flesh and Jiwan went down screaming, but the other fighters swarmed the guard. 6 humans against 1 alien. It wasn't a fair fight, and the alien died under their combined attack. They dragged Jiwan into the armory. Blood was everywhere, but he was conscious. "The weapons," he gasped. "Get the weapons." The armory was full of alien firearms, energy weapons that the humans barely understood. But there were also simple things: blades, clubs, explosives. They passed weapons through the ventilation system to the other teams. Now they had a chance. Daehyun's team reached the communication room just as guards were responding to the alarms. There were 4 aliens in the corridor, armed and alert. "We can't get past them," Hyunwoo said. "We don't have to." Daehyun pulled out something from his pocket, a small device he'd been building in secret from spare parts. "Get back." He threw it down the corridor. The device exploded, not big, but enough. The blast knocked the aliens off their feet. Before they could recover, Daehyun's team was sprinting past them into the communication room. "Seal the door," Daehyun shouted. They locked it just as the guards reached them. Claws and weapons pounded on the metal, but it held. "How long?" someone asked. "Maybe 5 minutes before they cut through." Daehyun was already at the console. "Hyunwoo, help me! We need to shut down everything." They worked frantically. Outside, the pounding continued. The door was starting to buckle. Taesung's group was running through the maintenance tunnels with half the ship's guards chasing them. This was the distraction. This was the plan. But plans changed when you were being hunted. Minho fell behind, his younger legs not as fast. An alien guard caught him, lifting him by the neck. "Got one," the alien growled into his communicator. Taesung stopped. He shouldn't. The plan was to keep running, draw them away. But he couldn't leave the boy. He turned back and ran at the guard. The alien saw him coming and laughed. One small human against a trained warrior. The alien didn't expect Taesung to slide under his claws, didn't expect the knife that cut through his leg tendons, didn't expect the human to move like a trained killer. Taesung caught Minho as he fell and kept running. But more guards were coming. "Too many, split up," he ordered. "Meet at the medical station, go." His team scattered into different tunnels. The guards had to choose who to follow. Some went after the others, but 3 guards followed Taesung and Minho. They ran through the narrow passages, Taesung half carrying the younger man. Behind them, they could hear the aliens struggling in the tight space. Being big was a disadvantage here, but the aliens were also relentless. They didn't give up. They just kept coming. Taesung reached a junction and stopped. His lungs were burning. Minho could barely stand. "Keep going," Taesung said. "Medical station is 2 levels down. Hana will help you. What about you?" "I'm making sure they don't follow." He pushed Minho toward the tunnel. "Go, now." Minho hesitated, then ran. Taesung turned to face the 3 guards. They emerged into the junction, claws ready, eyes full of hate. "The quiet one," the lead guard said. "Not so quiet now," Taesung said nothing. He just waited. They attacked together. Taesung moved like water, like shadow. The knife flashed in the red emergency light. He ducked under a claw, rolled past another. The blade found soft spots, joint gaps, the places where armor didn't protect. 1 alien went down. Then another, the 3rd guard, was smarter. He didn't charge in. He stayed back, using his energy weapon. The blast caught Taesung in the side. Pain exploded through his body and he fell. The guard walked closer, confident now. Not so dangerous. Just a human. Just meat. Taesung's hand found something on the floor, a piece of broken pipe. As the guard bent down, Taesung swung it with all his remaining strength. It hit the alien's head with a wet crack. The guard stumbled. Taesung hit him again, and again, until he stopped moving. Then Taesung collapsed. The wound in his side was bad. Burns from energy weapons were always bad. He crawled toward the maintenance tunnel, leaving a trail of blood. Had to keep moving. Had to reach the others. In the communication room, Daehyun finished his work just as the door broke open. Guards poured in. "It's done," he shouted to Hyunwoo. "Run!" They scattered. The guards caught 1 member of the team, but Daehyun and Hyunwoo made it to the ventilation shaft. Behind them, the communication systems were completely destroyed. No distress signals would leave this ship. At the medical station, Hana worked on Jiwon's shoulder while Yuna helped others. The fighters were coming back, some wounded, some dying, but they were coming back armed. And then they brought in Tae-sung. He was barely conscious, his side burned black from the energy blast. Hana's hands shook as she looked at the wound. "I don't know if I can fix this," she whispered. "I'm not a real doctor. I don't have the right equipment." Vorath moved through the ship with his elite squad. 6 of the deadliest warriors the aliens had. They were hunting. "The slaves have weapons," one of them said, checking his scanner. "At least 40 of them are armed." "Good," Vorath growled. "Let them have weapons. It changes nothing. They're still weak, still human." But in his mind, doubt crept in. Slaves didn't organize like this. Slaves didn't fight back with such coordination. Someone was leading them. Someone who knew tactics. Someone who knew war. He thought about the quiet human in the hold. Tae-sung. Always watching. Always calculating. And that name the dying prisoner had whispered. Reaper, it couldn't be. The Reaper was dead, buried under Soul's ruins, but if it wasn't, if somehow that human lived, Vorath pushed the thought away. It didn't matter. Human or legend, they would die today. At the medical station, Jiwon organized their defense. They had 15 fighters, including himself. Most were wounded. All were terrified. But they were also determined. "They'll come through that corridor," he said, pointing. "It's the only way in that's big enough for them. We set up a crossfire. Half of you on each side. Wait until they're in the kill zone, then hit them with everything." The humans took positions. Some had alien energy weapons they barely knew how to use. Others had simple blades and clubs. It didn't matter. They would fight with whatever they had. Tae-sung pulled himself to his feet using the wall. The pain was blinding, but he forced it down. He'd fought through worse. "You can't," Hana said, trying to stop him. "Your wound is irrelevant." He picked up a weapon, testing its weight. "If Vorath reaches this position, everyone here dies. I won't let that happen." "Then let us help you fight." He looked at her, this young woman who should have been finishing medical school, living a normal life. Instead, she was covered in blood, holding a weapon, ready to die. "You are helping," he said gently, "by staying alive. By being ready to treat the wounded. That's just as important as fighting." The sound of footsteps echoed down the corridor. Heavy, methodical, coming closer. Jiwon raised his hand. "Wait, wait." The elite squad entered the corridor. 6 massive aliens armed with advanced weapons, armor gleaming. They moved in formation, professional and deadly. "Now!" Jiwon shouted. Energy blast filled the corridor. The alien shields absorbed most of the damage, but the sheer volume of fire made them stumble back. One alien's shield failed. 3 human fighters rushed him with blades. He killed 2 of them before the third found a gap in his armor. The aliens returned fire. Precise, controlled. 3 more humans died in seconds. "Fall back," Jiwon ordered. "To the secondary position." They retreated deeper into the tunnel system. The aliens followed, but they were cautious now. They'd underestimated the humans. They wouldn't make that mistake again. Tae-sung watched the retreat from the medical station entrance. His tactical mind calculated the situation. 15 fighters down to 10. The aliens had only lost 1. At this rate, they'd be overwhelmed in minutes. He needed to change the equation. "Kirill," he said to the injured Shriven beside him. "The maintenance shafts. Can you seal sections? Trap them?" Kirill's antennae twitched. "Yes, but I need access to control panel." "In Section E." "Where's Section E?" "Behind the aliens." Tae-sung smiled despite the pain. "Of course it is." He looked at Hana. "When I leave, seal this entrance. Don't open it for anyone except our people. Understand? Where are you going?" "To be the Reaper one more time." He moved into the tunnels, using paths too small for the aliens. His wound slowed him, left a trail of blood, but he kept going. He could hear the battle echoing through the ship, his people fighting, dying. He reached Section E through a ventilation shaft. 2 regular guards were there, looking nervous. They'd heard the alarms, heard the fighting, but they were just guards, not warriors. Tae-sung dropped from the shaft behind them. Silent. The first one died before he knew Tae-sung was there. The second turned, managed to get his weapon up. The shot went wide. Tae-sung's blade didn't. He accessed the control panel. The symbols were alien, but Kirill had taught him the basics. He found the maintenance shaft controls and started sealing sections. Throughout the ship, doors closed. Tunnels locked. The elite squad suddenly found themselves cut off from their backup. Isolated, Vorath realized what was happening. They're separating us, trying to divide our forces. Should we regroup? One of his squad asked. No, we push forward. Kill them all. But now the humans had the advantage. In the narrow tunnels, the aliens' strength and size worked against them. The humans could move freely while the aliens struggled. Jiwan led his fighters in hit-and-run attacks. Strike and retreat. Use the tunnels. Never stay still. It was guerrilla warfare, the kind humans had perfected over centuries of fighting larger enemies. Another alien fell. Then another. Vorath was furious. These are just slaves. How are they doing this? Then he saw him. A figure in the tunnel ahead, leaning against the wall, thin, wounded, bleeding, but standing. Tae-sung. You, Vorath said. You're behind this. The quiet one. Not so quiet anymore, Tae-sung replied. You think you're special? You think you're a threat? Vorath raised his weapon. You're just another dead human. Maybe, Tae-sung said. But I'll take you with me. Vorath fired. Tae-sung rolled, the blast missing him by inches. He came up throwing, a blade crude but balanced. It caught Vorath in the shoulder, penetrating a gap in his armor. The alien roared in pain and anger. He charged forward, forgetting tactics, forgetting training. Just rage, exactly what Tae-sung wanted. As Vorath entered the junction, the floor gave way. Taehyun's trap set days ago activated. The alien fell through into the maintenance shaft below. But Vorath was strong. He caught the edge, claws digging into metal. He started pulling himself up. Tae-sung walked to the edge. He looked down at the alien who had tortured them for 3 years. You asked if I think I'm special. Tae-sung said. I'm not. I'm just someone who knows that strength isn't everything. Sometimes the quiet ones are the most dangerous. He kicked Vorath's claws loose. The alien fell screaming into the darkness below. The sound cut off suddenly. Silence. The remaining elite squad members heard their commander die. Fear entered their eyes for the first time. These weren't just slaves. This was something else. They tried to retreat. But Jiwan's fighters were behind them. Kirill's sealed doors trapped them. And Tae-sung was hunting them. One by one, they fell. By the time the sun cycle ended, it was over. The elite squad was dead. The regular guards had either died or surrendered. The slaves had taken the ship, but the cost was high. 23 humans had died in the fighting. Another dozen were wounded. The ship was damaged. And they were still deep in alien territory. Tae-sung made it back to the medical station before collapsing. Hana caught him, lowering him gently to the floor. We did it, she said, tears running down her face. We actually did it. First step, Tae-sung managed to say. Still, have to survive. Over the next hours, they secured the ship completely. Captain Zeth and his crew surrendered without a fight. They were pilots, not warriors. Faced with armed, determined humans, they gave up. Dae-hyun took over the engine room. Hyun-woo worked on the computer systems. They were learning how to run an alien warship through trial and error. Jiwon became the ship's new captain. His military experience was invaluable. He organized crews, assigned duties, kept everyone focused. Hana and Yuna set up a proper medical bay. They treated the wounded using alien medical equipment they barely understood, but they learned quickly. They had to. Kirill and his shriven people became the maintenance crew. They knew the ship better than anyone. They kept it running, and Tae-sung recovered slowly. The wound would leave scars, but Hana's skill in alien medicine saved his life. 3 weeks later, they intercepted an alien slave transport. Smaller than their ship, carrying about 50 prisoners from various species. What do we do? Jiwan asked in a meeting with the other leaders. We can barely handle this ship. We can't take on more people. We free them, Tae-sung said. It wasn't a suggestion. We were slaves. We know what that's like. We don't leave others in chains. They attacked the transport. It was a short fight. The transport's guards weren't expecting a slave ship to be commanded by freed slaves. They surrendered quickly. 50 more freed prisoners joined their crew. Among them were fighters, engineers, pilots from a dozen different species. The ship was becoming something new. Not a slave transport, a refuge, a symbol. Word spread through the underground networks, whispers on hidden channels. A slave ship had been taken. The humans were fighting back. And leading them was a human called the Reaper. More ships came. Some to attack, some to join. They fought off the attacks and welcomed those who wanted freedom. 6 months after the uprising, Taesung stood on the bridge of their ship. They'd renamed it Freedom. Simple but meaningful. Around him, the crew worked efficiently. Humans, Shriven, and a dozen other species. All of them former slaves. All of them free now. Hana approached him. She was the ship's chief medical officer now, confident and skilled. "We're getting a signal," she said. "Human resistance from one of the colony worlds. They're asking for help. The aliens are attacking and they're outnumbered." Taesung looked at Jiwon. The captain nodded. "Set course," Taesung said. "We're going to help. We might not survive," Hana pointed out. "This could be the fight that kills us all."